The Forgotten Library guards 5 ancient books, 5 truths humanity forgot. Rowan learned that silence heals what words destroy. Iris discovered that you become what you judge in others. 2 books have vanished, 2 lessons live on, but 3 books remain, waiting for those who need what the world forgot. This is the story of the 3rd book, the Book of Roots. In the same kingdom, in the mountain villages where warriors train, there lived a young man named Kael. He was strong, disciplined, and ambitious. From childhood, he had dreamed of becoming the strongest warrior in the land. Not just strong, the strongest, the one no one could defeat, the one everyone would remember. Kael trained harder than anyone. He woke before dawn, he ran up mountains carrying stones, he practiced sword forms until his muscles screamed, and he climbed. Every month, he would journey to a higher peak, plant his flag, and prove he had conquered it. Each summit was a victory, each mountain a testament to his strength. But there was a problem. No matter how strong Kael became, there was always someone stronger. No matter how high he climbed, there was always a higher peak. No matter how many victories he claimed, someone else had claimed more. The kingdom was full of warriors, and they were all climbing, all competing, all trying to be the strongest. Kael began to feel like he was running on a wheel that never stopped. Every achievement felt hollow because the next challenge was already waiting. Every victory was temporary because someone would surpass it. He wasn't getting stronger, he was getting exhausted. The competition was endless, and he was losing himself in it. One winter, Kael decided to attempt the kingdom's highest peak, a mountain so tall that its summit disappeared into the clouds. If I conquer this, he thought, no one can question my strength. I will finally be the strongest. He packed his supplies and began to climb. Days passed, then weeks. The air grew thin, his body weakened, but he pushed forward, driven by the need to reach the top, to finally prove himself. He was nearly at the summit when he saw something that broke him. Another flag. Someone had already been there. Someone had climbed higher. Even at the highest point in the kingdom, he was not the first. He was not the strongest. Kael collapsed in the snow, too exhausted to cry, too defeated to continue. "What's the point?" he whispered to the empty mountain. "No matter what I do, it's never enough." He didn't have the strength to climb back down. He stumbled down the mountain in a daze, barely aware of where he was going. Eventually, he collapsed in an ancient forest at the mountain's base. He expected to die there. Part of him wanted to. But when he woke, he was still alive, lying beneath the largest tree he had ever seen.
The tree was enormous. Its trunk was wider than 5 men standing side by side. Its branches stretched so far they seemed to touch the sky. But what caught Kael's attention was something he had never noticed about trees before. Where the trunk met the ground, massive roots emerged, thick, gnarled, ancient, and disappeared into the earth. How deep did they go? He had no idea. But looking at them, he felt something stir in his chest. Curiosity, maybe, or recognition. An old woman appeared from between the trees. She looked as ancient as the forest itself, her face lined with years, her eyes calm and knowing. She didn't speak at first. She simply sat beside him and looked up at the tree. After a long silence, she said, "Beautiful, isn't it?" Kael looked up. "It's tall, but I've climbed taller mountains." The old woman smiled. "Yes, you have, and that's why you're lying here, broken." She touched the massive root beside her. "Do you know how old this tree is?" "Old," Kael muttered. 1,000 years, she said. It has stood through storms that leveled forests, through droughts that killed everything around it, through winds that would snap a young tree in half. Do you know why it still stands? Kael shrugged, too tired to care. Because it doesn't compete for height, it competes for depth. Look, she brushed away soil near the base of the tree, revealing more of the root. This tree's roots go deeper into the earth than the tree is tall above it. For every foot it grows upward, it grows 2 feet down. That is where its strength lives, not in what you can see, in what you cannot. Kael stared at the root. But what's the point of being strong if no one sees it? Ah, the woman said. That is the question, isn't it? You climb mountains so people will see. You seek strength so others will acknowledge it. But strength that depends on recognition is not strength. It is performance, and performance exhausts the performer. Then what is real strength? Kael asked, his voice barely a whisper. The old woman stood and walked to another tree, a younger one, tall and slender, reaching ambitiously toward the sky. This tree grew fast. It wanted height. It wanted to reach the sun before the others. But look, she pushed gently against its trunk. The whole tree swayed. Its roots are shallow. Fast growth, weak foundation. The first strong storm will knock it down. Then she returned to the ancient tree and pushed against it with all her weight. It didn't move at all. This tree grew slowly. It spent years, decades, developing its roots before it ever tried to grow tall. It anchored itself so deeply that nothing can uproot it. That is real strength, not how high you reach, but how deep you root. Kael felt something crack open inside him. But I've spent my whole life climbing, training, competing. If height doesn't matter, then what was it all for?
It wasn't for nothing, the woman said gently. You learned discipline. You learned perseverance. But now you must learn where to plant those qualities. You've been reaching outward for strength, achievements, victories, recognition. But strength doesn't come from what you reach. It comes from where you root. Deep in values you won't compromise, in truths you won't betray, in a foundation that no one can take from you because it's not dependent on what happens outside. It's built inside. How do I do that? Kael asked. How do I stop competing? How do I stop measuring myself against others? You decide what your roots are, the woman said. Not what makes you impressive, what makes you unshakable. For some, it's compassion. For others, it's integrity. For you, only you can decide. But once you root deeply in those truths, you stop needing to climb, because your strength is no longer measured by how you compare to others. It's measured by whether you can stand firm when everything around you shakes. Kael stayed in the forest for 3 months. The old woman, who never told him her name, taught him without teaching. She showed him how trees communicate through their roots, how they share nutrients with weaker trees, how the forest is not a competition, but a network. The strongest trees aren't isolated champions. They're connected to something larger than themselves. Kael learned to sit still, to stop performing, to stop reaching. He began to ask himself questions he had never asked before. What do I value when no one is watching? What matters to me beyond winning? Who am I when I'm not competing? The answers came slowly. He realized that his obsession with being the strongest had made him lonely. He had sacrificed friendships for training. He had dismissed people who weren't useful to his goals. He had climbed and climbed, but built nothing lasting. He had been growing tall with shallow roots. And now, at the first real storm, the realization that he would never be the strongest, he had collapsed. I rooted my strength in achievement, he said to the old woman one evening. And achievement is sand. It shifts. It disappears.
Yes, she said. So where will you root now?
Kael thought for a long time. In being useful, in helping others grow, in building something that lasts longer than my own accomplishments, in being someone people can depend on, not someone they have to compete with. The old woman smiled. Now you're rooting in soil, not sand. Those roots will hold. When Kael finally left the forest, he didn't return to the mountains. He returned to his village and began teaching young warriors not how to climb higher, but how to build deeper. He stopped competing in tournaments. He stopped chasing recognition, and something strange happened. He felt stronger than he ever had, not because he was defeating others, but because nothing could defeat him. His strength didn't depend on winning anymore. It depended on who he was, and that couldn't be taken away.
Years later, as he walked through the village, he saw a building that hadn't been there before, the Forgotten Library. The door was open. Inside, he saw 5 pedestals. 2 were empty. The third held a book bound in bark and roots. As he approached, it glowed. The librarian appeared. "You have learned the third forgotten truth," the voice said. "Strength comes from where you root, not where you reach. The tallest tree can fall, but the tree with the deepest roots survives every storm. True strength is invisible." The book's pages turned faster and faster until it vanished in a flash of light. Kael looked at his hand. Beside the closed mouth and the mirror, a new mark appeared, roots spreading deep. "3 truths learned," the librarian said. 2 remain. But know this, the next truth is about completion, and many people fear finishing more than they fear failing. The library faded. Kael stood alone, feeling the roots inside him, invisible, unshakable, deep. The third lesson was learned. 2 books remained. Thank you for reading The Book of Roots, Episode 3 of The Forgotten Library. If this story changed how you think about strength, please like this video and subscribe to Wise Man's Tales for the complete series. Share in the comments, where do you root your strength? Episode 4, The Book of Unfinished Things, continues the mystery. The librarian is watching. 2 truths remain, and the final book will cost everything. Remember, the strongest trees grow down before they grow up.